Hello, my name is Graham Bowman, and I'd like to tell you why I wrote Empire First. Because I started out in the journey without any preconceived notions, no set agenda. I just simply wanted to learn and understand. And everything started with a passage I read in a book by Basil Liddell Hart, one of the most distinguished military historians of the 20th century. Now, in his book, A History of the Second World War, Liddell Hart claims that in June 1943, the Nazi and Soviet foreign ministers, that's von Ribbentrop and Molotov, he claims that they met face to face in the Ukraine to discuss the prospects of a separate peace on the Eastern Front. And this claim is, according to him, derived from evidence and testimony of German officers who attended the talks as technical advisors. But he doesn't identify the officers and he doesn't say how he came to meet them. So obviously the idea of Molotov and Ribbentrop meeting face to face in 1943 is a bit far-fetched, but at the same time, Liddell Hart is a distinguished historian. So I had to find out more about this claim. So I went down to the Liddell Hart Centre for Military Archives at King's College London, took out a big box of archives around Liddell Hart's personal life, and that's where I discovered that in 1945 he'd been employed to visit POW camps in the north of England to deliver lectures on the benefits of democracy to German officers who were about to be repatriated. And it was during one of these visits that he met a German officer called Theodor Reitmeier, who advised him that he'd been present at the Molotov-Ribbentrop talks as a technical advisor. Now, obviously, other people before me had investigated this claim, and in the archive box, I found correspondence indicating that somebody had gone through the German military records for World War II and discovered that the only officer called Theodor Reitmeier was attached to headquarters at Arras in northern France in the middle of 1943, so it was therefore highly unlikely to have attended any secret talks between Molotov and Ribbentrop in the Ukraine at the same time. What I deduced from this was that perhaps Reitmeier had been feeling a bit bored and mischievous and had simply told Liddell Hart a tall tale for his own amusement and entertainment. So although I drew a blank there, the archive file I took out did contain some other interesting information, and the most interesting was a short article detailing low-level Nazi-Soviet contacts in Sweden during the first half of 1943, and this immediately seemed more plausible and definitely very interesting because Sweden was neutral throughout the war. Both countries maintained embassies in Stockholm, and the 6-month period between Stalingrad and Kursk represented a sort of military equilibrium on the Eastern Front in which it might be in the interests of both parties to consider some sort of deal or understanding. But this raised the question, why in 1943 would Stalin have been willing to even contemplate a peace deal with his arch adversary, Adolf Hitler? Germany had invaded Russia in 1941, and the Soviet Union had suffered the most terrible consequences, the most terrible loss of life and destruction. So why, in 1943, was Stalin willing to explore the possibility of a separate peace deal with Hitler on the Eastern Front? To find out why, watch the second video.